So this is my VS Code. I've written some HTML, which include the heading, the image, and the paragraph. So like I said in the last video, we have display property, and under display property we have different values that are available. We mention of the default value, which could be either inline or block depending on the HTML element, and we also made example of those de- that have this default value. So we'll be continuing further using the internal styling written in the head section. So this is our website that we are building. Let's just code along together. So what I want to do is to first of all target the body. I want to change the background color. Let me make it this. Good. I've changed the background color for the body. Now remember, inside my body I have two div. The first div has the class of box. The second div also have the class of box. And inside this div we have the h1. We also have the image tag, the image. We also have the paragraph. So let's go further. Let's open it. Let's target the using the class selector. So first thing I want to differentiate, I want to change the background color. Let's just style it together. Background color, let me use gold. I think I prefer this. Is this too okay? No, I think I'll go with green. Good. I prefer this green color. So I've changed it to the background color to white back. So for the now the property we are talking about is float. The type of property float. Remember remember this is block element. The default value for paragraph tag, the h1 to h3 to h6 are all blocks. So these block elements, we've not yet changed the position yet or the display yet. So float float has three values. We have the value of none, we have the value of right, and we want have the value of left. So when we placed, and then once we give it a value of, let me say left, what will occur is that other pictures or other paragraph written within the code will float to this side. We float it to this side. Now let's see it in practice. First in first, I want to first thing first, we need to know that the float property has effect on the image. I intentionally first write it like this. It has is this property only operates on the image tag, not on the text tag. So take note of that. Let me cut it out. Good. Now the image tag, you can just call image, the image element. Then we can put the float property on it. And make it left. Good. You can see what just happened now. Our website is already coming out. I think I'll just leave the background color as black as it is. I think black is better. Good. So you can see what is already happening now. It has already floated to the left hand side. If I decide to change it to the right hand side, just change it to right. You can see it has gone. So the default position of image is none. The default is none. That's why this is the natural default, but we can effect it by either putting it to right or left. So let me just put it to left. Now I want us to practicalize some of the things we've learned in the previous video. So how can we design this? This is just look example of the newspaper, the Punch newspaper. We can see some pictures like this, maybe picture of advertisement that are linked, that once you click on it, it will expand. Now let's try and design this. So first in first, I will go to the image. I want the border. Remember the border when we talked about the box model, we add border. So I want, there's a property called border radius, border radius, and I want it to be, let me see, 5, 10%. And look at it, it has this curve edge. I think the curve edge is too much. Let me go with 5%. Remember one of our video when we created a cycle, and I said for us to create a cycle using CSS, we will just use the border radius property, and we will change it to 50. It will automatically turn it to a circle like this. 50%, it will turn it to a circle if there was no image here. It's just because of the image, that's why it is spherical like this, but that's not what we want anyway. So let me put it as this, and we discovered that it's too close to the paragraph tag. Now what can we do? We can add padding to it. No, not padding, we can add margin. Margin separates each HTML element from the other ones. But now where are we trying to separate it from? Is it from the right or from the top? Now this is the left hand, this is the right hand side, so we will use the property margin right, and we can give it 5 pixel, or if we want 10 pixel, 5 pixel is okay by me. We can see the adjustments made here and both here. We can still increase it further if we are not satisfied with 5. We can just put 10 pixel. You can see the difference that is made, and this image is looking big. I don't want it to occupy this particular space. I can reduce it if I want, because we are inside a div, and this div now, I think the image is if this is the half of the div, the image is representing above 25%. Let me just try and reduce to 25%. Let's see how it will be. Which property are we going to use? With the property called width. Press the width, then just use 25% of the screen of the div. Wow, good, we've reduced it. Is it not looking a little bit better? But these two div, they are too close to each other. What can we do to separate them? Good, since they are of the same class called this, we can just come over here and put margin. We can just do margin. Remember that once we provide one value for this, it has effect on both the top, the right, the bottom, and the side. So let me just give it 10 pixel margin. The 10 pixel margin, you can see how it has already been separated. But looking at this side of the div, is too close to the to the edge. What can we do to that? We can you can provide it a property called padding, right? You can just soup another property called padding. You can just give it 10 pixel. You can see it has already moved. When we learned about the box model, we talked about padding, margin, and the border. So you can see how it is now. Remember our last class we talked about the display, that we can change the display property. We can make it either the default value or we can assign it a different value like the inline blocks. But here is meant to be the footer. But why is this footer by this side? Footer is meant to be at the center. Let's go down. This is the footer. We can just go over here, target the HTML element, which is the footer. Then there's a property which we discussed about called the text align. Text align. Then we can provide a value of center. It has different value. It can be left, it can be right, it can be to the end, but we just want it to be in the center. We can just click on this center. Then it will carry it to the center. Oh, we may even want that, oh, we want the background color of this to be different. For example, we just want the background color to be, let me say, we want it to be yellow or yellow green. Good. We've already effect that change, but this is still, we are still designing. Let's look at this. I want this my div to be a little bit stylish, right? This div, let's go over here. This is the div. We can still just come here and use this property called the border radius again. Sorry, not the band, not this, not bottom, the border radius. I use radius border radius. We want the edge to be a little bit curvy. It's your choice, is not compulsory or is not mandatory. You can say we want the border radius to be 5%. You can see it has already created a curve style, but you may just find it, oh, this is not what I need. You can just comment it out. Anyway, let me comment it out. I don't think that's what I need. There's another property called the border itself, which is still under the border. So the border, we can provide value for it. We can provide the thickness. We want it to have a border. This is the border. Let me say we want the border to be 110 pixel thick. We can also specify the nature, the style that we want to apply. Is it solid? Is this the dashed? But we want solid. I can put solid here. Good. Then you can specify the color. It has already can specify the color that we want, because this color that is given is the default color because I didn't specify white. This is the default color if you want to allow it to be, but I didn't specify white. Maybe I may have wanted gold, right? Let me just put gold here. See, can you see how it is now? Let me go back and uncomment this one out. Back. See how the design is already coming out. Again, I don't like the spacing. I want there to be enough space in between them. Which property are we going to go to create to separate the two HTML elements from each other? You can just go to this. You can even directly specify, but we can just go to the margin. This is the margin now. You can just make it, 20 pixel. You can see it has already effect that changes. You can see how it is with the same property which we were discussing about flows. We can as well come here and change it to right and leave it as this. That's the default value, but if you want to put it to the right hand side, we'll just type right and it goes to the right. that's how some of our image are floated around the paragraph. Example, like someone's biography, newspaper. You've opened different magazine, you will see that, oh, maybe on in a website, you see the way the image are placed just beside the text. That is how it is done. You can decide to float it within anywhere. There's another property which I also talk about. Let me just uncomment it out. Let me add it, place it as a comment. Good. Call clear. Clear. Supposing we add two paragraph here, and we don't want the second paragraph, or we don't want one to float around this image, we can call this property clear. Then we'll provide a value for it. For example, we can provide a value of either left or right, depending on depending on where we floated the HTML image element to. Or if it is on both sides, we can just use another property called both. Another, we can provide another value called both. It will also work out. So remember, let's even practicalize what we learned in the previous class. Can we just change this to can we change the display? Because this display is, by default, this display is block. What if you want to change the display to inline block? So how are we going to do? Remember the property display, the inline block. We've already changed it to inline block, but now it has not gotten any effect yet, right? You can see if I do like this, it's meant to be side by side, but we can see that it is just staying by this side. Do you know what could be the problem? Now let's solve it now. Remember this, our elements, we said by default they are block elements, but now we've changed them now. But this, the content of this div already much, but now we can restrict it to a certain amount. Let's provide it with a width. What you will do, supposing we just give it a width of 40%. You know what that implies? Width of 40%. That means that supposing this is 100%, now we are telling that a particular div should just occupy 40%. So 40% will just be around here, around here. So let's change it. Good. 40 is already, we've already changed the width to 40%. Good. But now it has not yet still floated, right? Let's adjust it. Now there is definitely something going wrong. Good. Now it has floated now. Do you really know the reason why it floated? Remember when we added margin, we added padding, we added border. All these eventually affect the size. I've already said that I've already given it to be this particular size, but the effect of margin of the margin now has already said that there should be a space in between. So I've provided the value of 20 pixel. What do you know what that implies? 20 pixels here, 20 pixels here, 20 pixels here, 20 pixels here, 20 pixels here and here and here and here. So you can see now it's floating. By default, it is not meant to float. Let me remove it. Let me comment it out so that you see how it is. You see this, that is natural position. Now, but just because I commenting something out, what it implies is that the compiler will not read it. Will not read it. It will just comment, it just believe that this is a comment that the developer just used to just notify or to write some instruction to remind him of what he did or what he did not do, what is needed to be done. So if I uncomment it out again, it will restore back. And this is just this. If I decide to open it in my live server, let me click on the file, use the file, live server. Let's see. Good. I've opened it in my live server. Now see how it's aligned side by side because I've already made the property to be I've already made the property to be in display as inline block element. So this is just an example. We can still design it more. In fact, we can adjust we can move it to this side. We can make different adjustment. Remember, we talked about positioning. We can even position it, but one thing we need to note is that for absolute positioning, this float property won't work. So CSS is actually a very interesting topic. The reason why I'm actually breaking this property down is just that I don't want to just come and just write. I want to, as much as possible, talk about some of all these properties so that it's more easier for you to understand the reason behind why we are writing some certain code. It's not that just writing all these property I made mention of. I've explained them in my previous video, and even in this video I've even talked about some of them. So we are going to be taking it gradually, so with time, before you know, you'll start practicing it. At the end of this course, we will build our portfolio website together. Please, if you find this video informative, please endeavor to give a like, and please, if you are new to this channel, subscribe. You can share the link with your friends. Let's learn along together.